fans, welcome to Sports Chatter at lovely Papa John's Studios in beautiful Follett, Tennessee. It is that time of the year where we talk about the playoffs.
It's something you don't get to talk about very often around here. It's since 2008 that the Cougars made the playoffs last. They're our fourth appearance in the playoffs. And of course, got here via the big victory at Powell. Tough place to play.
What a victory that was.
So Coach Price pointed out in the post-game interview with you that you get your money's worth when you go to a Powell game. You can't leave early. The game looked like a defensive showdown throughout the game. Then in the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, Powell scores 14 points, and Campbell County scores 6 points themselves. So, just amazing turn of events. If you weren't there, I'm sorry that you missed it.
You really did miss out if you weren't there. Granted, kudos to the Campbell County fans and the Cougar Nation. You all were there in force.
So big numbers filled up Powell's visiting section completely.
I actually talked, there's several Campbell Countyans that live in Powell now that were sitting on Campbell County's sideline. My good friend Hope was there. My cousin Aaron, whose daughters graduated from Powell, but he was sitting on the Campbell County sideline. So, a lot of support there this week.
Oh yeah, it was packed. So watching the Oak Ridge Anderson County game on TV, there were more Campbell County fans probably at Powell, it looked like, than there were fans of either school at that Oak Ridge Anderson County. I couldn't believe that. I mean,
especially as big as that game was.
as big as that game was, all they were playing for, and you look over behind Anderson County's visiting bleacher, and it was nearly empty. It didn't look like there were 50 Anderson County fans in the whole place. But the Cougars came out. Ethan Jeffers got a little hurt a little early. He was hobbling around on his ankle. Powell was up 7-0. Looking like, it might be a long night. Cougars had to punt the ball occasionally in the first half more than you'll ever probably have. Seemed like more than they punted this entire season. I was talking to the Powell guy up on top of the press box, one of the coaches, and told him that they were playing better defense against us than really anybody had all year. Had a couple of turnovers. Jeffers threw what looked like a great pass to Joseph Elkins, and it hit Elkins in the hand, but he somehow...
It just popped right out.
It just popped up in the air, and that's maybe three... Ethan's thrown 7 interceptions on the year, and I believe 3 of them have been from this, where the receiver has the ball in his hands, but it just pops up in the air out of his hands. And it landed right on the Powell defender's arms. I mean, that's when Powell took it in and got up 7-0. After that, Campbell County's defense stiffened up, ended up forcing 5 turnovers on the night. Elkins had 2 interceptions. Paul Cordell had an interception. He forced a fumble, and he recovered a fumble.
Paul's actually up for a Player of the Week this week, too.
Paul had a big week on the defense. I said so did Joe Elkins on the offense. Ethan, you could tell he was hurting, and he got his ankle taped up, and it looked like he was struggling to walk.
He looked like a baby deer when it first takes its first steps.
He was having trouble out there, and hopefully that's an issue that doesn't come back to haunt us against Gibbs this week in the playoffs.
Of course, now, I'm going to say, Trey Torres threw the prettiest ugly pass of all time.
Hey, Trey's thrown two passes this year. Unless I misremember, and Campbell County threw a pass with a backup earlier, I don't think they have. Ethan Jeffers has thrown every pass except for 2 this year. And the 2 that he had, Torres has thrown, and they went for about 80 yards combined, or 85 yards combined. One was for us a touchdown, and another led to a touchdown. So, I mean, just 2 huge plays out of Torres. And Preston Miller was there. He made a couple of Powell defenders miss, stepped into the end zone, and just like that, it went from despondency over on the Cougar Nation sideline to just pure joy.
Oh, Chris and I were actually on the Powell sideline. And it went pretty much the opposite of that point, because we were making our way up for the post-game interview.
It was a very
it was quite the trek across.
Deflating experience for Powell. I have nothing against Powell. They're pretty good people, pretty good hosts. I mean,
oh yeah, I love the folks at Powell.
Very good. Everybody in the district's pretty good at being hosts and does a good job with their stuff. There's some rivalry, some schools, but there's nothing that serious. But just after the way they beat us last year, and we were down with a minute to go and kicking what should have been the game-winning field goal attempt, If not, we're probably gonna go to overtime, then they block it and run it back for a touchdown. It was nice to, yank the rug out from under them in the same way. And, we were 3-7 last year at the end of the year, and it would have been big to get that Powell win, but God knocking them out, that knocked them out of the 6A playoffs when we beat them.
Another thing, Chris, and we're going around. I'll say this about the Powell folks. Great host. We talked to one of their fans. He's like, yeah, I grew up spending almost every weekend in Cove Lake. I love Campbell County. I'm glad to see y'all doing well this year. Coming from an opposing team's fan, that makes you feel pretty good.
Yeah, like I said, there's some rivalry, some of the teams. I mean, you got a lot of good fans out there. Oak Ridge, really nice fans.
Oh, Coach Gaddis was and Coach Mullins, their athletic director, were very gracious in the loss. I mean,
Halls, it's kind of terrible sometimes in basketball season, but not enough of them care about football to matter.
right. Cards, yeah, I'll be nice.
So there's some rivalries.
Yeah, of course, Clinton's the family feud. Speaking of which, if y'all are just craving high school football, it's about over, and even though it's the playoffs, Saturday at Grace Christian, there's going to be an end-of-the-year bowl game. It's probably going to feature 3 different games. Clinton's going to be involved. Oliver Springs and Bearden are the teams I've heard for sure that are going to be there. And it's a benefit for that kid that broke his neck during the game a couple of weeks ago. So if you want to catch some more high school football Saturday, go check them out. It's a worthy cause. Clinton's got that high-powered offense. Oliver Springs is always a tough team. Bearden is a Knoxville power. They just didn't happen to make the playoffs this year. So that's a good one. But now that I've got that plug out of the way that I promised Rodney I'd give him, now we've got to talk about Gibbs.
It's a tough spot to be in the playoffs bracket. I looked over the entire bracket for the state in 5A. No other 2 seed. Where's 3 seed? No other 2 seed has a 9-1 record in 5A classification. The best 2 seed in the state outside of this bracket is an 8-2 team. I believe East Hamilton.
Who plays Oak Ridge?
So there's no 3 seeds or 4 or 5 lost teams. I think one of them may be 7-3, and the others are 4 and 5 lost teams. That gives you an idea of this bracket and how tough it is on Campbell County. And there was speculation that Cherokee making the playoffs, and they did because West or Anderson County wanted to leave. And that would have bumped Campbell County up to being the number 2 seed.
It just moved Cherokee into playing Anderson County.
That didn't happen at all. I'm not sure why they gave a bit of preference, I guess, to one of the other brackets.
Well, when it all comes down to it, you want to talk about a bunch of rotten jackals. The TSSAA are a bunch of money-grubbing rotten jackals, and I will stand by that statement till the day I die.
Yeah, they apparently have millions of dollars in their excess fund pot, but they keep wanting more and more. But regardless of that, the bracketing makes no sense. The seeding makes very little sense. It's supposed to be geographically based, but for some reason they have Oak Ridge going down to Chattanooga, and the team from Northeast Tennessee coming over to here. 2 teams from Northeast Tennessee coming over to here.
Boone and Davy Crockett are both having to travel heavily.
But some teams apparently do have to travel a lot still. I don't know why, in Anderson County or West probably. West is not that far from the Chattanooga. It's a little bit closer to the Chattanooga bracket than Oak Ridge is. West is not a district champion. They shouldn't have probably gotten preference to stay that close to home. I mean, I would have taken, it would have been a lot farther I would have taken Campbell County moving out.
Yeah, and, Anderson County deserving number 1 seed. They had the tiebreaker on us. West at a 2 seed, though.
Here's regardless of them having the tiebreaker on us. The TSSAA playoffs bracket doesn't count head-to-head games. That is not one of the tiebreakers. As strange as that sounds.
That does seem strange.
Head-to-head, there's plenty of head-to-head teams. I saw a lot of examples earlier of some 4 and 6 teams that made it over 5 and 5 teams that beat the 4 and 6 team. Some people were complaining in some spots about that. They don't use tiebreakers. They don't use head-to-head. That's part of their ruling system on tiebreakers. It's a very convoluted system. It's so screwed up that even they don't get it right, and they've had to change the brackets back occasionally. Apparently they didn't have to change any this year, but last year, like on this Monday, the following the playoff selection, they actually had to go and tell some teams, no, you actually aren't playing that team. You didn't even make the playoffs. We're sorry. This other team made the playoffs. Even I don't know why you have to have such a convoluted system.
And heaven help you if you tried to watch it streaming online.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
I mean, okay. TSSAA, multi-million-dollar organization, can't get streaming online.
It's not
Jim
that
Freeman
hard.
gets streaming online, right? With a small East Tennessee radio station.
But, I mean, if they can't even figure out their own math to make their own brackets, you should know they can't figure out that. Anyway, what we're saying, it's a tough draw for Campbell County. And the fact that we were initially projected to play David Crockett in the first round.
Oh, vengeance was going to be mine.
You know, that there is a long-standing 25-year-old vengeance that needs to be exercised in that one. But we were going to play them. David Crockett lost badly to every decent team they played this year. This is going to be a brutal slaughter against West. If West has their starters in the second half, I'll be stunned. David Crockett gave up 90 points to Science Hill earlier in the year. 90. And West may be a better team than Science Hill.
Mm-hmm. West is the second best team in that bracket, but only because the best team in that district, only because the best team in that district is Maryville.
The West's only losses to Maryville, their last 3 wins are something by about 150 to 12.
I mean, that's a bracket that includes Farragut, Bearden, 2 strong Knoxville powers, Hardin Valley, that's not a bad team.
Oh, they handled Hardin Valley.
Oh, they handled Hardin Valley and made them humble.
Beat them by 40 points. And they blew out Bearden by about 40 as well. They handled Farragut. Farragut beat Oak Ridge, and then the next week West beat Farragut pretty badly. Other than their game against Maryville, nobody's been within a touchdown of West on the year. And if Campbell County can get by Gibbs, and I say if, I mean Campbell County will have to bring their A game to get by Gibbs. Gibbs is playing great football. Gibbs went, their defense appears to be playing good, but it's not that their defense is playing well that much.
Their defense doesn't have to be on the field.
Their offense keeps the ball the whole game against everybody they play. That triple option is almost unstoppable. If you've watched Oneida steamrolling Jacksboro and everybody else in the district up here the last 5 years, those option attacks are hard to stop if you can run it well, and they do. And it's an equalizer. Gibbs' defense has a hard time competing with some of the athletes that are in this district. They can't stop Campbell County. They can't cover their receivers. Campbell County marched up and down the field on them. Big play after big play.
But if Campbell County's receivers aren't on the field,
if you can't get the ball, you can't do it. Gibbs is not going to throw the ball and make interceptions. That's one of our strong points. Because those same receivers we have are also playing the secondary. They're great secondary players. Had 2 big interceptions against Powell. 3 interceptions against Powell we're talking about. Gibbs doesn't throw the ball unless it's dire straits.
I think Gibbs threw the ball maybe 4 times against Campbell County total.
They threw it 4 or 5 times at the end when they needed to go 80 yards in a minute.
And that's the problem with that team. Once you get up on them,
if you can get up on them by 14 or 21 points, they're going to have a hard time ever catching you. And that's what Campbell County did to beat them. Campbell County stayed ahead of them by 7-14, 7-14 most of the game. But they're hard to stop. And they held Powell. They beat Powell 28-14. I don't think they've given up, since the Campbell County game, I don't think they've given up more than 14 points in a game. And they've won 3 in a row. They beat Central 28-14 also.
Central's a good team.
Yeah, Central's a fine team. They handled Central pretty easily, kept Central's offense off the field, but they mainly handle running teams pretty easily. And if you can throw the ball, they have trouble with it. It's just getting them off the field. I mean, they had a pretty big loss to Clinton early in the season. They've improved since then, but Clinton throws the ball.
Well, yeah, I mean, Thrackers Clinton is on fire. I mean, he's actually thrown for a few more yards than he.
Yeah. Oak Ridge, they don't throw the ball that well normally, but against Gibbs, their quarterback had 5 touchdown passes.
I mean, look how well Gibbs played AC.
Now, Gibbs held AC. It was 7-0 at halftime, and a very low-scoring game the late the third quarter, and AC got, I think AC scored 28 points in the fourth quarter, or something along those lines. And it ended up being 35-7, but that was a tough game for AC until the fourth quarter.
You see, I want to play AC in the playoffs. I want that.
I would like to play AC again, and I know that they would love to host us.
Rivalry or no, those folks have always been good to us. And they, getting past Gibbs is going to be tough. Getting past West is going to be tough. My eyes still are slightly on that rematch hoping it happens.
I know the coaches are looking at nothing but Gibbs, and that's what you have to do because Gibbs will beat you if you don't. And I said you have to hope that Jefferson's healthy, hope that the defense, getting that look at the option. That I know that the coaches do not like to change the defense they play. You don't. You never like to have.
No, you never want to re-scheme mid-season.
You re-scheme. They did that against Clinton. They put a new package in for Clinton instead of playing their defense that they played, and Clinton scored a lot of points. And Matt Price admitted to me after the game that they should probably not have tried the new defensive scheme. Just do what you do, and you beat the other team that way because they've been beating people with it all year. And they've held. The defense has played great. It's hard to beat what the defense has played this year. They got, I don't know if they got tired or what in the fourth quarter against Powell. That's the first time I've seen them do that. They just could not get Powell off the field. Powell's sort of running a little bit of an option themselves.
Right. I mean, that's a darn good running back.
And they got a great running back. Their quarterback can run with the football. And Campbell County was just having trouble keeping them from getting 6 or 7 yards out to the edge and getting out of bounds, which is what allowed them to come back so quickly. That's what they had trouble stopping Gibbs. I mean, if they would get Gibbs in 3rd and 7, the quarterback would run for 8 yards on that option. That's what happened. It's just the option's a high turnover offense. You'll have 2, 3, 4, 5 fumbles in a game.
That's just something you got to live with if you're going to run the offense.
That's what you live with the option. You're not throwing the ball at all, so there's no interception risk, but you're pitching the ball, and there's just a lot of bad things that can happen on the option, and it's a high turnover offense. That's just the way it goes. You don't force a lot of punts, but you'll force turnovers, and Campbell County has to take advantage of every one of them.
And on the upside, Campbell County's pretty good at picking that ball up once it hits the ground. I mean, I've had several players recover fumbles. Of course, Corey Phillips even scored on one.
So did Bailey against Gibbs.
And Bailey did, yeah, against Gibbs.
He recovered. They both ripped the ball out of the ball carrier's hand and ran it in for a touchdown. But you're looking at this. Campbell County's going to have to play a solid, hard 4-quarter ball game against a team that hits hard, that runs the ball, wears you out. West is probably going to be up by 50 in the second quarter because, like I say, Daniel Boone is not good. Any good team they've played this year, they've been putting the speed limit up on them, 55 or better, every game it seems like. And it's just, that's a tough matchup when you're a 9-1 district runner-up and the other one's a 9-1 district runner-up, and your matchup is so much harder in the first round than theirs is. And this is a district foe that's familiar with Campbell County. That's a big advantage. It's hard to beat the same team twice in the same year. And, David Crockett has not saw West before. So, they don't have any kind of, really schemes that they can put in from experience playing West this year. Gibbs can put in something maybe to try to help them slow Campbell County.
They've got their film of their own personnel against Campbell County. And that's a film study is huge. And when you've got your own personnel against somebody, you literally are looking like, we can change this, this, and this.
It's going to work both ways. The Campbell County will have the same on Gibbs. The Campbell County has the home field advantage this time, but the home field advantage to me doesn't mean quite as much in high school as it does some other places, but it's still an advantage.
I would love, and I have no doubt the Cougar Nation will come out in force, but I would love to see that place rocking like it did against Oak Ridge.
Oh, that would be great. I expect there's going to be a big crowd. If you win that one, almost assuredly you're going to end up going to Knox West. And Knox West has been number 2 in the state all year to Henry County, who's undefeated. And so their only loss to Maryville. Maryville's beaten pretty badly, but Maryville beats everybody they play pretty badly. And there's no doubt that Maryville is the best team in the state now, especially with Innsworth losing last weekend. And it may be Fulton, but I think Maryville probably rolled Fulton pretty good. Fulton tends to have a little trouble when they step up. As a matter of fact, Fulton's last loss, West beat them pretty badly last year, and Fulton won the state championship after that. But I believe West scored 55 on Fulton last year. They have the same quarterback back this year. They can throw it around. It's going to be tough if we can get by Gibbs. Go over there and beat West. Anderson County, you'll play Cherokee. They'll roll Cherokee pretty badly. Their second round matchup's probably going to be against Tennessee High, who's the 4 seed, hosting another Northeast Tennessee team.
Tennessee High and Bristol, they play some pretty good football, but they're kind of the poor stepchild in that area when you compare to the other teams.
No, the other teams go up to 6-8 in that bracket. So, like I say, it's gonna be a tough match. You just gotta hope you get by Gibbs, and you worry about West the week after that. But I hate that they have to play Gibbs again. That's the one team, just watching it, I hate playing option teams, I hate running quarterbacks. It's nerve wracking, you know, it's frustrating is more what it is, because they always have that ability. And if I remember right, I want to say that Gibbs went for it on fourth down every time they had a chance to go for it on fourth down.
They did.
I don't know if their coach will do that same thing again. I think they punted one time in the game, if I remember right. I don't know if their coach will do that again or not. Because at that time, Gibbs was, I think, 2 and 5, or something along those lines. And
They were
had
playing nothing to lose football.
Nothing to lose. You might as well go for it. Keep Campbell County's offense off the field, because you know you're going to give up a touchdown probably if you put Campbell County's offense back on the field. There's a lot more to lose in this game, and he may not be able to play it quite so wide open. And it didn't work out for him that week, but they did end up going, you know, so they closed out the season after Campbell County 3-0, got to 5-5, and here we are. A tough first round matchup compared to, you know, other people with the same resume or worse resume than we got.
So it'll be interesting. So fans, we hope to see you there this coming Friday night. We're going to wrap us about up for the...
Remember, the game starts at 7 instead of 7:30.
Yeah. And it is $8 admission per TSSAA mandatory.
Mandated by the TSSAA.
So fans, we'll see you next week. Hopefully talk about a big Cougar playoff win.